Good afternoon. What's up, everybody? Joe Salemi here from DynaSCAPE Software for the next installment of the Manage360 Masterclass, where we're working to help you get the absolute most out of your landscape business operating system. In today's session, we're going to be going over webinar number 9 in this series, and we're looking at job tracking and analysis. We've got one of our great implementation and training specialists with us, Fabio Ronconi. You're here, Fabio.
I am, Joe. Thanks. How's it going?
Awesome. Good. How you doing?
Good.
Good. Thanks for carving out some time in your day for us. So today, should actually say webinar number 9 there, job tracking and analysis. So you've got all of your job costs recorded. You know, we've gone through timesheets, and we've gone through the app and how to get your time and materials in against the job. So you've got all your job costs recorded. Now it's time to analyze everything that you've kept track of. So this particular session covers the job costing process to teach you where the numbers come from and where they go and really what they mean. So as it relates to job costing, tracking, and analysis, you know, you can't be expected to guess and be accurate. Job tracking and doing your analysis through Manage360 will help you, first of all, plan out your job-related expenses, costs, and overall come to a level of accuracy that you can trust. Essentially, more time that you spend planning, you know, during the estimating process and planning process for the job, ultimately means easier tracking, with labor being the biggest variable in any job. So make sure, at the very least, you're tracking hours. If you're not currently job costing or job tracking, start simple and iterate or evolve your tracking process. Maybe start out by just tracking the amount of time that you're spending on jobs versus how much time you thought you were going to be spending on jobs. Tracking jobs accurately can prevent overruns early. So if you're tracking every day, or you know, let's call it every other day, you can monitor and really see when things are starting to perhaps come off the rails, and do what you can to prevent that, so that finally the job is on time and on budget. Essentially, that's really what you're working towards a profitable landscape project. So I think at this point, it's a perfect time to dive in. I'm going to hand it over to Fabio, and he's going to take us through the job costing and analysis process.
All right, thanks very much, Joe. I'm just going to get my screen going over here so you can take a look at this one. All right, so again, welcome. Like Joe said, today we're going to be focusing on the job tracking and analysis and the actuals component that we have. So just again, to reiterate a little bit of what he said, the vast majority of data for these actuals, whether it's construction or whether it's a maintenance type job, either one, the vast majority comes from the timesheets. And so we're not really going to touch on the timesheets very much at all today, just like at a high level, just to kind of review, summarize, because we did like our last two master classes are a lot of detail on timesheet process, and last week Jordan did a very excellent one on the mobile app itself. So those last two ones are very good for how the information gets here, where it comes from. Now we have that, so we're going to look at the tracking part. What we're also going to do as well is just touch on the reports, because again, there's a very good masterclass on the reports that goes over all of the reports in the system. I'll basically kind of point out the ones that are very specifically related to this job tracking in there as well. So we're going to kind of break it up into like the construction side and the maintenance side. At the end of the day, it's very similar. So a lot of stuff that I'll be talking about on the construction side, again, will apply to maintenance as well. But I'll start on a construction job, kind of go over the main parts, Again, there's two key tabs in a construction job that will go in more detail. The job actuals tab and the analysis tab, we'll go over those. And then the maintenance, there is an actuals tab that we'll be going over as well. So right on the screen right now, I have a construction job on here. So this job, I think it's, again, we have several timesheets and the job's finished. Just kind of want to go over, what we're going to see now as well. So basically, before we get into the actuals themselves, just a quick overview here. On the general, so I'm on the job, on the general tab of the job, again, this is more of a reminder, at the bottom of the general tab, there's this, how am I tracking my time? And again, I said, we talked about this before as well in the timesheets session as well, because this is directly related to how the time is tracked on the timesheets, and then again, very specifically related to how it's going to be displayed in the job actuals themselves. So if I'm tracking by work area, I will see work areas in the timesheet and work areas in the job actuals tab on there. So if I'm not, then I won't see those as well. So this is very important. And again, this filled in by default based on the division settings. But as Joe mentioned about changing something, you can evolve your tracking. You can adjust this on a per job level. So if, for example, you've been tracking one way and it's fine, but on a specific job, you really want to track at a more detailed level, you can change this bottom section here to change the tracking on this particular job only. So this one job, let the crews know, okay, for this job, we're going to be tracking at a high level of detail just to get the information in our job actuals. Again, you can go back to do another one as well, but this can be changed, again, prior to any timesheets being created as well on there. So that's the first thing I want to talk about, that this affects how the tracking information is going to be displayed. Now, another quick tab here is this job log timesheets tab. Again, we talked about timesheets before. This will now list all of the timesheets that this job has appeared on. They could be consecutive, it could be 1, it could be 15, it could be 25. And the other key part here is it tells you the status of the timesheets as well. Because as I'll bring up shortly, those timesheets need to be approved. Just filling them in is a good first step, but that really doesn't give us the actuals because we need to approve them. So you always want to check here at the end of a job, make sure nothing's not approved. And I left one unapproved for now, just so we can show you how that works as well. But it's always want to check here, have the timesheets, have they been approved? Yes, great, on there as well. Now, another thing that's kind of goes into an actuals is on the contracts tab. This is where I would have change orders. And again, we've done a change order masterclass to get details about how change orders work in the change order process. That's great to go back to. But in here, the main point I want to bring up here is, are there any change orders that I haven't approved yet? That we actually did the work but didn't approve them? Because again, if they're not approved, they don't become part of the current contract, which then they're not part of the job actuals and I can't report off of them as well. So you want to check in here, any pending ones, either if it's we didn't do the work, that's fine, we can leave it, or no, I needed to approve that, we forgot to approve it, then that way it becomes part of the job actuals as well on there. So yeah, just one, those are the three, kind of want to touch on those points as well. Like I said, the tracking, the timesheets lead in, contracts, approve those change orders so that they become part of the current contract as well on there. Now, I'm going to jump to the job actuals tab here as well. So the job actuals tab, like I said, all of the information from the timesheets, hours, materials, equipment, whatever, is as it's being entered and saved and then approved, it's feeding into the job actuals tab itself. So this is basically at any given point when you go into the job actuals tab, this is a snapshot of what is happening in this job right now. And again, to know, again, if you're doing timesheets, based on approved timesheets as well. So, so we have that information there now. I'm just going to look at that. So we're going to kind of review this tab first, and then I'll go into more detail as I'm going through. So I'm going to kind of cover all the different things that are on here as well. Now, you'll see there's a view drop down here. Quantity and percentage complete. So we'll focus on the quantity. That is, the quantity is the default view. That's the one that most times you're looking at in here. And I will go over both in a second. There's an expand and collapse that you can do all that as well. There's also an add items button here. So this add items, if something we had not estimated and it's not on change order, but we need to account for in the job costing, I can add items to my job actuals directly here as well. This is also possible from the timesheet. It can be done from the timesheet as well, but it's the exact same functionality here. I can add an item. When I do this, this item will have an estimated amount of 0 because it wasn't on the estimate as well. If it's something that we're going to bill for, it's typically handled via change order. So you can always add additional ones right from the job actual itself. Now, want to kind of look at the items themselves. So this breakdown that we see on the left-hand side here, the first level of detail is always the item type: material, labor, equipment, miscellaneous item, subcontractor, general conditions. Now, if you have a job that doesn't have all of these types, you're not going to see that here. If we didn't use any miscellaneous items from our cost book, this level won't be here as well. But the first level is always the item type itself. And again, we have totals by item type. So for material, we estimated cost was 4,000. Our job log is this. Our actual is this as well. So it gives us a variance. So each information is there as well. I'm going to open up the second level. So once you expand these, and again, you can click this and expand every one of them. But to expand any of these, the material, for example, the second level is this second level is based on how you are tracking. So in our general tab, we said we are tracking by work area. So, and by our material by work area. So in our material, we then list all of the work areas that we are tracking. So then I can see totals by work area as well on there. Then, so if I am not tracking by work area, my second level will just be the actual items themselves on there. Now, the final level after, if I'm tracking by work area, is expand that, and then I can see the individual items themselves. So this, in this case, is materials. These are the materials that we had estimated in this particular work area. And this is where I can see the line item quantities and the amounts and the costs of those individual items themselves as well. So, like I said, you can drill down whatever you need to on there as well. So at this level, so at the item level, the information is split here between the quantities and the amounts, the cost on here as well. So the quantity, again, is broken up into like, what do we estimate, what's on the job log, what is the actual, and then the variance as well. And so the estimate comes from obviously the approved estimate, and the estimated amount can be updated obviously by any approved change orders, since they then become part of the current contract. So those are actual estimated amounts. The job log is what has been entered and saved on a timesheet on there as well. So that's when it first gets entered and the timesheet saved, job log fields automatically updated on there as well. Now the key is the actual column, because the approval of the timesheet is what will generate the actuals, or it'll make those the actuals. If I don't approve time, if I may have a job with 10 timesheets, none of them are approved, all of my actuals will be 0. So it's the approval of those timesheets that will recalculate and say, okay, now these become the actuals, and it'll make the actual value what was on the job log of that approved timesheet as well for that. Now, a key with these quantities is, if you're using timesheets, and again, we probably mentioned this before, but if you're using timesheets, you do not want to manually adjust these actual quantities, because as timesheets get approved, basically whenever timesheets is approved, it recalculates saying, okay, now all my approved timesheets, this is what the job log actual quantities are. So it may overwrite a manually entered number here, because again, if you're using timesheets, they should be used to track all the quantities on there as well for that. Now, the variance column here just does the math between the two. What's the difference between the actuals and the estimate? Doesn't use the job log for that, but you can kind of see, and again, when the value here is negative, we've underused that material, or we've reported underuse on that material as well for that. The second part, so the quantities all come from the timesheets. The second component is this amount cost over here. So again, unit cost, actual unit cost, the estimated amounts, the job log actuals, and variance, very similar. Now, the unit cost, this is when I made the estimate on this item, we estimated it was going to cost $31 a cubic yard on there as well for this particular item. That just comes in, same thing with the change order. So a change order, that was the estimated cost was going to be, which comes directly from our cost books. Second part is this actual unit cost. Now, Manage assumes that that topsoil, $30 cubic yard, that is the actual cost, again, on there. So for the materials, equipment, miscellaneous subs, for all the items, the actual unit cost is defaulted to be the same as the unit cost, but this is editable. So if you do need to change this on there as well, you can adjust these. When we get the receipts back, we paid more for this topsoil, we paid less for this topsoil, or the stones, or whatever, the sand, the mulch, the plants, whatever the actual cost was, you can adjust it. This actual unit cost will not be changed as timesheets are approved because they are just doing the quantity component. So if you do that, you can fill that in as well. Now, one note here, so like the actual unit cost for all the items, like I said, materials and everything, it uses the amount. I just want to make a note on the labor here. So I'm going to labor quickly. In the labor here of the items is the actual unit cost of the labor is dependent on who is on the timesheet as well. So it's key. The actual unit cost is what is the cost on the employee's record in the settings, what is their hourly rate. So the actual unit cost for labor is a weighted average of who did what on the job. So if Frank was there for 40 hours and John was there for 2, it takes a weighted average of, okay, the actual unit cost is mostly Frank, a little bit of Joe, John, that's what the actual unit cost is. So it's important, if you ever notice the actual unit cost is 0 after you've approved a timesheet, the likely culprit is in the employer records of those people in the settings, their unit hourly rate is likely 0. But it's important that's the only one that does a weighted average because it's like it knows who was there for how long on which task, and then that calculates the actual unit cost for labor right here as well. So that's a labor on that one. All the other ones, it uses what's in the cost book, but you can adjust it as well on there. Now, again, it then does a variance for the cost as well. Now, again, with the variance, if the cost is positive, then we've saved money. If the cost is negative, then we've gone over our estimated costs for that particular labor, material, equipment, whatever is on there as well for that. So again, at the line item level, quantities come from the timesheets. Actually, the cost comes from the cost book or from the people that were on the timesheets when it comes to labor. Another item in here, so at the end of each row, on the very far right side of each row, there is a checkbox there. Now, the checkbox is optional. It doesn't, you don't choose to use it. That's not a problem. It doesn't affect any reporting. So the checkbox is on or off. The reporting doesn't get affected, and it's really only on this screen. So what it's typically used for, some of the more common ways I've seen it being used is that, for material, for example, if I'm in the material and I know that if we topsoil, yep, we did pay $31. Click that box. Doesn't change anything. It's just that when I'm looking at this later, yeah, I know I accounted for that. That's been dealt with. So it can be used to kind of indicate that, yeah, we've taken care of that. That the cost has been changed if it had to be changed, or that's the correct cost on there as well. Just as a flag for that. And again, like I said, if you don't want to use those, that's fine. If you want to fill them all in at the end, you can use select all, which will fill in every single checkbox automatically. Will clear all the checkboxes there as well for that. Now, like I said, there's a grouping total. So like each kind of the materials have a grouping. The work areas, if I'm tracking by work areas, they have it on there as well. But at the very bottom of this job, I have the overall totals for the whole job. So again, there's no quantity totals overall because you don't add up different things, but there's a cost component. So again, this is our estimated cost. Again, from our estimates and approved timesheets, $10,500 was our cost. Our job log cost was $9,600, but our actual cost was $8,400 here. Now, so this is one thing. So these are kind of things that once you get used to looking at this, once you notice that the job log and the actuals, if there's a discrepancy between them, whether it's in the quantity side or the cost side, that again, that typically indicates that there's likely a timesheet that hasn't been approved yet. Now, it might still be in process. The job might be ongoing. How was today's timesheet? That's fine. We haven't approved it yet. Not a problem. But if you're going back and looking at, we finished this job 6 months ago, 3 months ago, and take a look at this, this would lead me to believe that, okay, you know what? I should probably go check in the timesheets tab and approve that and check if there's any approved timesheet. So in this case, I'll just quickly do that. So like, again, if you notice discrepancies between job log and actual, whether it's at the cost or the quantity level, again, typically indicates that a timesheet needs to be approved. So let's pop into the timesheets tab, find the timesheet, all ready for approval, click on it. I'll leave this because I didn't make any changes. And I will, when the timesheet loads up, I will just approve this timesheet, and then I can go back to the job as well on there. But like I said, it's just, again, that's one of the things to look for. So here's a timesheet. Yeah, I forgot to approve it. Approve that. Again, because it does it as a close as well, it's going to take me back to the job, back to the time. Oh, now it's approved. Go to the job actuals tab itself now. Update it. If I look down at my totals now, same. Okay, now it makes more sense now. Everything is adding up there on there as well for that. So that's the one thing to check. So you can see this was our actual, cost and the variance. So 500 positive. So we spent $500 less on this job. And it then also shows us again the break even, the profit, and so all of the excess basically goes into the profit on there as well. So if we spent $500 less, and our profit's going to be more on this one as well. So all this information here, like I said, driven by the timesheets. It is also visible on reports. So there's three main reports. There's several reports, but there's three big reports that this job actuals comes from. So quickly go to here again. So in the job management section, there's a job profitability report, which again is all that same information there. Then everything about that, I can get the quantities, but this one specifically will also include things like what was the sale price, what was the profit margin estimated, what was your actual profit. So this one does go into overheads and profit margins and revenue for the jobs themselves. And again, all driven from the same information. The other one is job cost detail. And again, it's called job cost detail. This one, like it says, it's strictly, this one is almost exactly like the quantity and the actuals there, the quantity and the cost. It's just, there's no profitability. It's just strictly give me the quantity that I used of something versus my estimated amount and the cost of that as well. So again, it can be broken down in a very, very similar way to get that information also. Now, you can also run these reports, again, if you don't want to do it at a job level, you can run these same reports, but I want to group them at my entire division. How much of this material did we use across the last 6 months? You can also get this job cost detail because it captures actual quantities of material. You can get that information out as well from there. And the last one, so this job cost detail across all item types. If you want plants, materials, equipment, subcontractors, all of that. And the last one is job cost labor, which again, it's exact same thing, just labor, quantities and cost, but it was only, it's already, that report is already filtered to only show the labor. So like Joe was saying, if you're tracking just the labor and you want to get, because that's again the key critical components, typically the most volatile on there, this will give you how much labor do we estimate at a job level, at a work area level, if I'm tracking it that way, or how much labor do we use in the last X date range as well on there. So those are the three, again, big reports. I'll just pop into one quickly here. So I've run the job profitability report, like I said, for that same job. And again, like I said, you can group it. You have again, this is a fairly typical grouping by job, by work area, by item type, by item. This is very, very similar to what we saw in the job actuals. You can change the grouping to do it by entire division. And that's, I don't care about the job level detail. But once you run a job, you can do like this. And then I want to run it for this job only. I don't care about all my other jobs in this case. So I ran the report here. So again, at the top level, this is my cost of the job, same as on my job actuals. My actual cost, I ran it before I approved the timesheet, so that's my actual cost is lower. If I run it again, this will be updated. So my revenue is what I have sold this job for, including all approved change orders on there as well. What have I invoiced? Again, it's not on job actuals, but this report will capture that as well if you'd like. But things like my estimated profit amount, what was my actual profit? Again, before I approved that timesheet, so it's a little bit high on there as well. But like I said, you can drill down, and like Joe was saying, you can start looking at, if it's for a longer project, you can check into the work areas on there as well. This work area didn't have a name, and you can, again, if you don't have a name, we don't know what the name is on there as well. But you can see general conditions, so you can drill down and see how did we do in those particular work areas, cost-wise, profit-wise on there as well on a specific job. So again, this, again, same information on job actual, but we can run this report to get it out as well. Now, I also, again, I drilled down into the item types. Like you can get into equipment, labor, materials, then you can even drill down further and then do it material by material or labor type by labor type as well. And you can get down detail. Again, export these out to Excel if you'd like to run more reports. But again, I'd recommend, again, reviewing the reporting masterclass. Have a lot more detail in there as well. But like I said, those 3 reports, job profitability, job cost detail, and job cost labor, really give you that information. Now, I'm going to pop over back to the job quickly. Going to switch back to the different view here. So the percentage, like I said, the quantitative view is typically on there. The percentage complete view, what this view is, basically is trying to kind of amalgamate that cost information to be at a percentage level. Not like it doesn't necessarily care about the quantities, more like the cost side of it as well. So what we have here is, again, the same groupings by item type. Then we have the estimated cost, again, same as before, estimated cost, approved change orders. This actual cost here, again, based on my approved timesheets, is the actual cost of material, of labor, of equipment, whatever's in there, all that's detailed. Now, this actual percentage here, so the actual percentage, this is taking, if I expand like down to the work area, this one gives me what percentage of my cost have I already incurred or have we already used on there as well. So we've used up 98% of our costs on there as well. This is the actual percent. Now, at the end of a job, the actual percentage may be less than 100 because we did the job, we didn't cost so much as we thought, we saved a little materials. So this one may not be 100. It may be over 100 because we may have had cost overruns. That'll be over 100. Now, as I expand this down, I may have cost overruns in specific work areas, not for the whole job, but you know what, in our main work area, our labor went over, but didn't go in the other one, so overall we're okay. But, you know, I may need to drill down into that other work area. What happened? Where did we kind of go over on that as well? So this one is strictly based on the cost usage percentage. It's not the hours, it's just our cost of whatever item we have, what is the percentage. Now, the completed percentage, this is a manually entered field in here. So I just want to touch on this very quickly. It's pretty straightforward. But this completed percentage, in the billing tab of the job, there is a progress section in there as well. So again, in the payment details, if the milestone billing is selected, then there is a job progress section here. And again, you can track by the entire job, or you can track by work. And I can't change it now because I've already tracked it, but you can track that. So this is something you would enter in if you're billing by milestone. You can enter this in manually. It can be at once a week, once every couple of weeks. Talk to the supervisor, fill this in on there as well. If you're billing by percentage of completion, then as you bill a percentage, that becomes a job progress as well on there. So this is where the progress is coming from. Is from the job progress on the billing tab. Now, if I have change orders, each change order, approved change order here, has its own progress. So that change order is done. So if I don't tell it that this change order is finished, change is 100% complete, then it's not going to say, I think we're all done on there as well. So as you enter them in here, whether you're billing by percentage of completion or tracking, and then you can track these by work area as well, you can have the percentage of completion. All of them that are entered in here are summarized right here in this progress section right here. This is the progress of the entire job. All of the different change orders and original contract, what is the total completion? So at the end of a job, this should ideally be 100. You come into here at 100. In the job actuals tab, that's where this completed percentage is coming from there. And so again, this one typically should be at 100. This one will be more or less depending on our cost overruns. And so in this case, we get a quick summary of, yes, well, we say we're 5% under on our overall costs for the whole job as well. That's where that percentage complete comes from. Again, it does require a again, if you're not billing by percentage completion, this one does require some entry into the billing on the job progress section as well. Now, just want to jump to the analysis tab now. So I kind of looked at the actuals. We'll go into the analysis tab. And it's a lot of this, again, is we're just displaying that same information slightly differently as well. So the analysis tab on the construction job, its own tab, and it has, again, just a little more graphical information based on estimated versus actuals. Again, at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for, estimated versus actuals in there. Now, the graph will be kind of broken up into two different sections here. The left side, just straight labor hours overall. 190 estimated, 242 usage. Again, we've clearly gone over. And again, this is also a good place to get a quick snapshot, as Joe was saying, early in the job or a weekend. It's a longer job. Our labor hours, yeah, we look pretty good. Or like, we're nearing the end. Are we almost on this job? Like, no, then we can kind of tell, okay, we may be going over. So that's what the labor hours. Again, approved timesheets, feed all this data. The revenue column here, just so you know where all of the fields are coming from. Basically, the sold is the current contract. Like, again, whatever the estimate was approved for, plus any approved change orders, that is the sold amount on there. The billed is what have you invoiced in Manage so far. Now, if you're not sending invoices out of Manage, or if you're doing your invoice a different way, that's fine. I would still recommend, yes, we invoiced it, create the invoices Manage, so Manage knows, yes, we've accounted for that as well on there. The earned is the job progress here. So again, at any point, theoretically, if we're halfway done the job, we've earned half that. So this number will also increase as well for that. So that's where these come from. This is just the original contract plus any approved change orders in the ones we've invoiced and the job progress. The right side is, again, those cost components, nothing with quantities, again, just those cost components. And it's kind of a sort of combination of the actuals there with the quantity plus the percentage, because it says these are my costs, my estimated costs. Material cost, we estimated this much. What was our actual material cost here? Plant cost, we don't have any plants in this particular job. Labor cost, estimate versus actuals on there as well. So all the different same components, same item types are broken down cost-wise. And overall, it's our overall cost, what's our overhead, and what was our profit margin on there as well. Sorry, our profit dollars on there as well. Now this profit right here, just again, as for you guys look at this again, the job actuals tab itself just does the profit. The job actuals tab ignores any billing. On the analysis tab, this is profit may be negative until you bill. Once you bill, Manage's like, great, you've made the money, and so then this profit takes into account the billed amount over here. So this one specifically takes into account the billed section as well. But overall, at the end of the day, it's still approved timesheets. The key, approving the timesheets, again, if you're using timesheets, approve them, they automatically fill in the job actuals. Now, switch gears a little bit. Again, like I said, a lot of the stuff that I've talked about applies to maintenance as well. Timesheets, filling them in, approving them, they become the job actuals. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what kind of job it is, still relevant. So I'm going to pop over to a maintenance job, just look at a few of the differences. They're, like I said, very similar. Now, in this job here, we don't really have a tracking, how I want to track. It just tracks by service, and it tracks at the service level. And in this case, in the maintenance, we only have one tab. We kind of combined it in the actuals and the analysis into a single tab. So in the actuals tab of a maintenance job, again, just like before, you approve timesheets, feeds the data into here as well. It has a couple options, expand and collapse, just like in construction. But right here, this is very different. This is very specific to maintenance. This is for the calculations on this page, for the actual calculations on this page, how do I want to see them? Do I want to only take into consideration the completed visits? I can do that right here. Or I want to see all of the visits. So if I've completed 3 of the visits, but I haven't, completed 12 of them yet, I want to take it all into consideration to kind of see an overall, as of right now, summary. So you can choose this. Completed is the default, which is, again, kind of sometimes makes a little more sense, because we're only basing this on what we've already done, not what we are theoretically going to do on there as well. So you can switch that between the two for sure. Like I said, it'll update the information quickly. Now, if you ever want, again, if you're ever 100% sure what it's doing, there's a little question mark here, a little help button. Click on this, will pop open a little window that kind of explains how a visit is completed and what the difference between those two options are there as well. So that's there on the actuals tab. Now, unlike the construction where we can choose work areas, not work areas. Here, it's automatically grouped by service. Now, you may have 17 services, 3 services, 5 services, 1 service. We automatically group by service, and we can see the total by service. So for this service, we've completed 14 of 27 visits, total estimated hours, what our actual hours are for those completed visits, and a current running average on there as well, what the variance is, and again, the quantity and then the cost, just like on the constructions, our cost so far that we've incurred, our profit so far, and our profit per hour so far based on our completed visits. Now, this page does do some color coding here. Obviously, red, not good. We've gone over on there as well. You can see it by service. So each service is listed separately. If we end up with any additional T&M visits, like the client would like us to come and do something that wasn't part of the original contract, and I track it as part of this job, all the additional T&M things will be listed on their own, and they'll have their own service. Now, it may be different types of T&M work, but if I expand it, I'll be able to see each of the specific visits as well in there. Now, at the bottom, the overall totals, again, like on construction, just the overall, regardless of service, just total hours, cost, overhead, break even, profit on here as well for that. And we do, again, the contracted visits, these are the ones that were part of our initial estimate that we set up, and these are our time material visits that we're going to use as well on there. So again, it does it by service automatically, but the good part is, again, when you notice red, when you notice something like this, you can expand each service and then see, again, because I'm incompleted, these are my completed visits so far. And I can see it on a visit by visit basis what the differences are. So I can see, okay, on one visit in particular, we went way over on there as well. So it could be that we made a mistake on the tracking potentially, or something went wrong on there as well and just took us way longer than we thought on that particular visit. And so I can track that. You can see that on a visit by visit basis. And again, it gives us a variance for each particular visit. And like I said, this allows you to drill down and kind of see, why are we over? Was it just one visit that went sideways? Okay, then our average should be fine for next year. We just, or is it like where we were over every single week? Okay, maybe next time we need to increase the hours because it's taking us a bit longer than we initially anticipated as well on there. So again, all coming from the timesheet, those visits, and again, the hours is in here as well. Now, if you want to expand the visits, also, you can look into those specific visits. Now, this icon will open up that work. If visits is the work order, this button will open up the work order in its own tab, and you can look at it here. If you want to get a quick snapshot, expand, you can see, okay, the labor and the truck package. And you can, again, typically every visit's the same, but you can adjust. You can see and if I have materials, they will also be listed here as well on there. So that's where that comes in. Like I said, I'll just collapse that. But again, the completed ones, you can see where we are right now on there. Now, instead of having an analysis tab separate, what we've done is kind of incorporated that into, at the far right side of the rows here, a little graph icon. So if I click on that, then it will open up specifically the summary for that particular service. So I want to see analysis of the service there as well. So I can see that, and again, some bar graphs at time, and again, it's kind of broken down, time related here. So the hours, estimated, what we've done so far, what's left, and we're likely, again, if we do it on our average, we're likely going to go a bit over on there as well. What is our estimated per visit? What is our current average as well on here? How many visits will be done of the expected number here as well? And again, profit on here, and the cost component also. So again, this is every service. You can kind of get a quick snapshot at a service level by clicking on the graph icon at the end of each row on here. We don't have it for the T&Ms because, again, I may have multiple T&Ms that are totally unrelated, different, so it's hard to amalgamate that kind of data on there as well for that. Now, like I said, the biggest thing, but again, it's still related. Again, I still have a timesheets tab, same kind of thing. I want to check my timesheets tab. I didn't have one. I need to approve that. Oh, this one was from a couple days ago or last week. Is it finished? Again, I need to make sure they're approved. Like, it's always key, especially again, when, if you're looking at this actuals and you're like, why have we only completed 4 visits? It's been a month and a half. There should be more visits. Number one thing to look at is timesheets being approved on there as well. So like I said, now the biggest difference here is that if we're not using timesheets, you can go to the visits and edit the specific visits individually and mark them as closed. And then that will also go to job actuals. But again, if you're doing the timesheet, that will also kind of happen automatically. Do a timesheet, they submit it, mark it as closed, it gets approved, feeds into the job actuals on there. So again, those are very important for that section. Now, there are also, again, corresponding reports on the maintenance side that are very useful, that use essentially this same information as well. So this kind of gets you a job level snapshot. If I kind of want to look at it again at a job level, but maybe I want to send it to Excel or something, or if I want to look at it at an overall multi-job or date range level, on the reports, I'll just kind of mention the key ones again that are for maintenance. The big one, again, they're very similar. There is a maintenance job profitability. Again, just like the job profit of construction, it says it's based on the maintenance services themselves. So I can see job by job how our profitability was, service by service on there as well. Or I can also run this ignoring the jobs. How did we do on at a service level, regardless of the job? How do you overall in the service? What was our profitability by service? I can get that out of this maintenance job profitability itself. I can also do service category. If I have a lot of service, I'm just going to roll up to the category. Categories come into play here as well. Maintenance job cost detail. Again, very similar. It still will give you quantities and cost for job, for service on there as well. And then within each service, what it gives you at the service level. It doesn't give you at the visit level. It gives you at the service level. How do you do on the service, quantity and cost wise? But with each service, you can see labor. How much labor did we use? Materials. How much materials did we use at a service level as well? So you can get that information out of this material job cost detail. You want to see if you have a mulching service. How much mulch did we use in all of our services? You can get out of this report. You just group by service, show me the materials. Let me see how that was on there as well. And again, it'll give you the estimate versus the actual for the material level or labor or equipment. Another one for maintenance is this maintenance revenue report on there as well. And again, this one, like I said, this one is a report that will give you the number of visits. So more on the sales side of it as well. Like how many visits did we sell and what did we sell them for as well. Now, this other one, this next one, this maintenance visit report, this one is, again, tied directly to those actuals because this is show me the visits that we actually completed within a specific date range. Again, and the completion typically comes from the timesheets being entered in and approved, and therefore those visits are done. So now I can see the number of visits that we did. This one can tell you, again, over a date range, and you can see either how many mowing visits did we do over that range, or I can see, what did our clients get over a range? What kind of services did our clients get as well? And so this maintenance visit report will give you that kind of detail. Like I said, you can choose the date range, you can choose kind of the grouping. There's a couple options, do it by count or by service, and then you can see, again, these are completed, and you can be very specific, every account that we have, and which division do I want on there as well. And again, also, I just want to see mowing only, just what we do in grounds maintenance or snow care, or whatever lawn care. You can be very specific as well there. So not all, I just want to see what do we do with this specific category, what did we complete, and this report can give you that on there as well. So like I said, this one is very good for, again, it's driven from those actuals. What did we do? What have we completed over a specific date range that is in there? So hopefully I didn't talk too quickly in that one, but like that's kind of what I wanted to go over there as well. Like I said, those job actuals, again, come from those times that we've done before. Those timesheets feed into the actuals feed into the reports on there. So back to you, Joe. Anything else too?
Awesome. Thanks, Fabio.
No problems.
So everybody, thanks for joining us this afternoon. I want to let you know that this session has been recorded, and we will be posting it later this afternoon to the link that you see on your screen, dynascape.com/Manage360-master-class. All of the Manage360 master class sessions previously aired have been posted to that page, and all of the future ones will be as well as they are aired. And if you have any questions, definitely get in touch with us. Our email or calling is a great way to get in touch with us, support@dynascape.com, or 1-800-710-1900. Extension 1 will get you right to our support team. So any questions, technical or otherwise, just give us a shout, and we'll be happy to help you in that regard. Next week, we're looking at general conditions, tips, and tricks. So general conditions are basically anything, any direct costs to the job that would be on a job regardless. So think of larger landscape projects where you need a porta potty, or dumping fees, mobilization time, like that kind of stuff. All general conditions. So we'll go through and look at how to maximize your use of general conditions, and show you some tips and tricks and how that all coordinates through Manage360. So we'll look forward to talking to you next week in our next installment of the Manage360 Masterclass. Fabio, thank you so much for your time. Thanks everybody for joining us.